It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Well, it is time to chat some medical issues on your Tuesday morning, as we do normally. But this morning we're talking about GERD, or gastroesophageal reflux disease. And we have our multimedia health specialist, Dr. Darren Green, in the house to explain to us exactly what this entails, because it does affect around 1 in 5 adults. It is rather serious and prominent. Dr. Darren Green, very nice to see you, my man.
Always, thank you.
Welcome. So, GERD, we've been talking about this whole morning. It's the first time I've actually heard the word GERD. So what exactly is it?
GERD. Gastroesophageal reflux disease.
Okay.
So that already tells you where it's happening.
Yeah,
The gastro is the stomach, the esophagus, and then the reflux is basically the return on investment of what goes into the stomach actually moves and flows back up the food tube or the esophagus. Yeah. And there are different reasons why that can occur. But GERD itself, the condition or the syndrome, presents typically with a host of symptoms, but the most common one obviously being things like heartburn. So when you say you're on fire inside, it's because the gastric content mixed with the acid which the stomach secretes to digest that food then moves up. And there are different reasons, obviously, for that.
Obviously. Well, we are taking your calls, just by the way, answering some of your questions. If you want to give us a shout, you can do so on 083 91 33728. Call us and Dr. Darren Green will answer those questions. All right, well, we have our very first caller, Lauren, on the line. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, Lauren. What's your question for Dr. Darren?
Okay, my mom suffers from acid reflux almost every night, and we don't know how to stop it. We've tried most of the medication, but it still doesn't help.
All right.
So
it's every night.
Yeah, so she mentions acid reflux, and that also is the content. So obviously what's important here, there are a few things you can do in your routine and your lifestyle to minimize the symptoms of reflux. So look at the size of your meals. Perhaps take smaller meals and not such a big meal in the evening. Yeah. Look at the time that you're eating your meal at nighttime, whether it's an hour before bedtime, because if you eat a large meal just before sleeping, you can imagine it sits around in the tummy, and when you lie flat, that can also then make it a lot easier. The posture after eating is important. There's a lot to be said for sitting down at the dinner table as a family to have a meal. Yeah. Because while you're eating and sitting in the upright position, you're facilitating the movement in a natural way through the gastrointestinal tract for the stomach to digest the food and then move on. Okay. So that's important. She mentioned medications. I mean, there's an array of medications, from basic antacids all the way through to ones that actually stop and block the acid pumps in the stomach to minimize the amount of acid being produced. And those are called the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors. And they work extremely well because we use them to switch off those pumps so that the tummy lining, the skin, the lining of the stomach can actually recover if it's been irritated and been damaged by long-standing excessive acid production.
Right. I want to ask because, I mean, I think everybody gets the occasional heartburn now and then. So good. How is it different? Is it an ongoing thing? Is it something that you battle with over a long period of time?
It is, certainly. And it's something that when it happens 2 or 3 times a week, it starts becoming problematic. Okay. The intensity and the severity of the pain often guides you as to the degree of irritation of the stomach lining and the esophagus itself. And then when it affects your daily functioning, you can imagine if you're suffering from swelling, bloating and pain every time you have a meal, you know that something's wrong and it's going to affect your productivity at work and at home.
All right. At what stage would you suggest seeing your doctor if you are unsure about, whether you have it or it's just an occasional heartburn?
Yeah, I think when you've tried simple mechanisms like the ones I've mentioned earlier in terms of practical ways, decreasing your meal size, not eating just before sleeping, when you're drinking enough fluids, and you've tried simple antacids to try and neutralize the acid and the postural changes, and that's not working, then I think certainly you need to visit your doctor. Don't forget also that if you have long-standing reflux disease, it can cause significant damage and impair the motility, the movements of the esophagus.
All right. Well, definitely a big topic we're talking about this morning. GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. We are taking your calls, 083 91 33728. We're going to be taking those calls after the break. Stay tuned.